Hey everyone! So as a lot of you know, we just got our fall 2022 Nintendo Direct, and the discourse around this Direct has been mixed to say the least. Lots of people are pretty disappointed, and I feel like that's the general take from most people. However, I feel like I'm in the minority of opinion in regards to this Direct because I actually thought this was a pretty great Nintendo Direct. I have quite a lot to say on this Direct, but before y'all go down to the comments and start telling me your opinions, make sure to hit that like button on the video because it does help me a ton. So to start, I don't really want to recap this Direct because I feel like that's just what so many channels are doing, going over each announcement one by one. Y'all watched the Direct, y'all know what was shown. I just want to talk about my opinions on the games that I am personally excited for, and also talk about some of the issues that people had with the Direct. So we started off with the reveal of Fire Emblem Engage, and I want to keep this kind of brief because I do want to make a separate video on this game, but overall, I think the best way to summarize it is I'm very excited for this game, but also pretty nervous about it. This game got hella leaked a couple months ago, and people expected to see it over the summer, but of course we never got that general June Nintendo Direct that everyone expected. But it is nice to finally see this game revealed. It is really unfortunate that this game got leaked though, because it feels like there's just so little excitement around it, and I feel like it's just partially because so many people already knew about this game. But oh well, the game is only a couple months away, releasing in January, so we don't have to wait too long. The next big announcement in the showcase was Pikmin 4, which is insane to see that this game is still in development. Back in 2015, Miyamoto said that the game was almost done, so it's cool to see that it's still almost done. We didn't get to see a lot in this game, only a small little gameplay clip was shown, but I'm assuming that this is probably going to be a late 2023 game, maybe fall into that fall category. So I'm assuming that they're probably holding off to do a big reveal for this game when it's closer to that actual launch. I honestly loved all three of the Pikmin games, even though I've only finished 3. I played 1 and 2, but I only got about halfway through those. But I honestly do really like every entry in the series, and I'm super looking forward to this game. Now, this next game that got revealed, I had no expectations of this series coming back, but we got a new Theater Rhythm game, being Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line, which, wow, I love this game back on the 3DS. I never owned it, I had to rent it, but every time I've played this game, I've just had such a blast. And now that I know more about Final Fantasy and Square Enix games since I've last played it, I'm going to have such a blast with this game. Especially considering it's not just Square Enix games that are having music in this game, they're also having DLC for Chrono Trigger, Nier, The World Ends With You, and most surprisingly, Xenosaga. I'm honestly really excited for this game. I do think it is a little overpriced being at $50 and then the DLC going up to $100 for the deluxe edition, but either way, I'm really excited for this game, and it releases in February. Another game that got me really excited was a new peek at the new Mario Kart tracks, which we have a Holiday Snow track from Tour and Peach Gardens from DS. Honestly, the opinions have been kinda controversial when it comes to this DLC, but I've been having a great time with it. Every time a new pack releases, I do stay up, I play it, and I have a great time. However, by the time this next pack releases, I'll probably have to outright buy the DLC. Right now I'm on the expansion pass subscription, and honestly, I am not very convinced to renew it. Which, speaking of, we got new N64 titles for the expansion pass, which wasn't exactly what I was wanting. I really wanted a new console to be added. I really don't feel like new N64 games are gonna convince most people to resubscribe. But let's be fair, what they did show was pretty great. They're adding all 3 Mario parties, they're adding both of the Pokemon Stadium games, and to no surprise at all, at this point because it's been leaked so much, GoldenEye 007 is coming to the service. Honestly though, as much as I really do want to play the N64 Mario parties online on my Switch, $50 a year just to do that is not enough. I really expected more from this expansion pass when they were charging so much, but it really does just feel like it's N64 titles, they have Genesis titles, and they just include a bunch of different DLCs. Alright, I'm trying to avoid negativity, so let's get back onto some positive vibes with a Kirby game that got revealed. This was just such an out-of-nowhere announcement with Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. I played this game a few years back on the Wii, and honestly, I think it's one of the best 2D Kirbys. probably the biggest point of note is the fact that they have kind of redesigned Dedede out of his Forgotten Land design. So I guess this is just the modern design of the character now. It's also supposed to have online multiplayer, which is super nice because one of the people that I did want to replay Kirby's Return to Dreamland with no longer lives around me. But if the online for this game is good, we can still get to play, and that's super exciting. And before we get on to the obvious one final game that was shown, let me quickly go through some of the other smaller announcements that did get me really excited in this Direct. We got a new Bayonetta 3 trailer, and of course the game looks amazing. Crisis Core got its release date being in December, which is perfect timing for me. I really do want to play that game. Raincoat is a new game by the Danganronpa developers, and honestly, it looks super good. I haven't played a lot of their other games, and I've only played Danganronpa 1, but this game actually does look super good. I'm pretty excited. Xenoblade 3 got a look at its next DLC update, which I'm also pretty excited for. I love Xenoblade 3. It's one of my favorite games on Switch. Oh my god, I want to talk about Xenoblade 3, but now is not the time. Tales of Symphonia is getting remastered, which is nice to have this on more modern platforms, but I think it's a little too expensive considering that it's based on the PS2 version that doesn't have 60 FPS, but that's fine, I guess. It's just nice to have this game on more platforms. But lastly, of course, we got a trailer for Breath of the Wild 2, now known as The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Well, quite an unfortunate name to reveal now, but it's real, and we have a release date in May. They didn't show a lot of gameplay in this trailer, unfortunately, but what they did show was super cool. They showed off the new stasis mechanics, we saw Link riding on this cool looking bird mech thing. This is another game that I do just want to make a whole separate video on, but overall, I'm super excited, and this was such a great way to end the Nintendo Direct. Looking at all this on paper, so many people would be like, how is this a bad Nintendo Direct? We got so many great things. Now, the argument is more so with the stuff that I didn't mention. Firstly being the pacing of the Direct, which I will agree was kind of rough. The timing between the Fire Emblem reveal and the Pikmin 4 reveal was about 30 minutes. And in between there was a lot of those smaller titles, which, while there were some things in there that I loved that worked for me, I can totally understand why those things didn't work for a lot of other people. I will say though, on the farming games, I think it has been very blown out of proportion how many farming games there were. There were 4, but I went back and I checked the timestamps. They spent around a minute on each one, which, come on, that's 4 minutes out of a 45-minute Direct. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Twitter thinks otherwise, but that's just my opinion. Something that I do think destroyed the pacing of this Direct, though, was the Miyamoto Pikmin segment, where he just spent so long talking about this year-old mobile game that, quite frankly, not that many people play. And it was so weird, because you would imagine that if he was going to talk about Pikmin Bloom for this long, you would assume that there's some kind of content update that he's going to announce. But it was just him talking about how much he liked Pikmin Bloom. Which is fine, but a Nintendo Direct is just not the place to do that. And I feel like partially it kind of also took some of the wind out of the Pikmin 4 reveal, because it kind of felt like after he started talking about Pikmin, it was like, alright, you're talking about Pikmin. It's quite honestly just going to be disappointing if you don't talk about Pikmin 4 here. So, I digress. I still am really excited for Pikmin 4, but I do totally agree with that point. Pikmin Bloom should have just not been talked about here at all. There was another game that got revealed, which I think this is pretty mixed, but Octopath Traveler 2 got revealed, and I actually think it looks pretty good. But I will say one of the biggest issues with this reveal is not necessarily with the game itself, but the fact that we have had so many games in the same art style in such a short span of time. This year alone, we got Triangle Strategy and Live Alive, both of which are great games, don't get me wrong, but they're the same art style and they look so samey. I feel like just releasing so many of the same art style games, which also, I will say, this is a big misconception, these games do play entirely differently. Octopath Traveler is your standard turn-based RPG, Triangle Strategy is more like a Fire Emblem kind of deal, and Live Alive has a completely unique battle system that is turn-based, but you know. But it's so hard to be excited for another one of these games when we've had 4 of them, and there's more on the way that just weren't talked about in a Nintendo Direct. Like there's that Dragon Quest III remake that's happening. So I don't know, I feel like if Square Enix doesn't start holding out on these art styles, I think that these games might start just getting a bit of an oversaturation. However, I will say probably the most common reply I've gotten to people who were excited about this Direct, who were happy with it, is, oh, if you like this Direct, you're clearly a huge fan of RPGs and farming games. And honestly, I find this kind of interesting because I love this Direct, and for the most part, the games I liked were not farming games or RPGs. I liked Fire Emblem, and I liked Theater Rhythm. Fire Emblem's a JRPG, and Theater Rhythm is based off a JRPG. I guess I was also excited for Crisis Core getting a release date and a sizzle reel, but that's it. When I came out of this Direct, I was mostly thinking, wow, Zelda title and release date, Kirby Remaster, new mainline Fire Emblem, Pikmin 4, Mario Kart DLC, revival of Theater Rhythm, Crisis Core, Xenoblade DLC, Bayonetta 3 trailer, and more. And honestly, when I came out of that Direct, I was super hyped, and I was really surprised to go on the Twitter and just see that everyone was so disappointed. And that's kind of why I wanted to sit on my opinions of this Direct and give it a couple days, listen to what people had to say, and see if that maybe affected my opinions after sitting on it after some time. But honestly, I'm still feeling about the same as I felt when the Direct ended on Tuesday. Not the best Direct for sure, but it was still a solid 8 out of 10 to me. And if that Direct wasn't for you, that's perfectly fine, and you're perfectly allowed to talk about how disappointed you were. This video isn't to tell you what you're feeling is wrong. This is just what it is, my opinion. And not everyone loves every Nintendo Direct. Hell, you know that mini Direct that happened back in June? Lots of people love that Direct, but me, I wasn't that big of a fan of it. Last year's September Direct, a lot of people really liked that Direct, but I didn't like it either. So, just take my opinion as just that. It's an opinion. But, like I said, I want to get my thoughts out there. I love talking about Nintendo Directs. And, of course, I'm going to be excited for the next one. As I said before, more videos on some of the games in the Direct are coming soon, so be on the lookout for those. But, that's all I have to say on the Direct in general. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.